Awesome, awesome. Thanks a lot, folks, for joining in. I think we have been planning this from a couple of months with the Design CBC, which is part two of something that we have done in the early sort of last year. And also, Happy New Year to everyone. Um, hope uh, this year brings in much more stuff that you have been planning around, and hope everything goes well for you. One of the things could be just to learn design as well, as a PM. So yeah, before we basically start, I would just love to know, maybe you can sort of um, introduce yourself maybe on the chat, or I would love like if you can like probably like uh, switch on your cameras and probably tell me like who are you, what do you do and stuff, or maybe we can just have a quick round of like the kind of people that we have in this session. It would be amazing. We'll just take like first 1-2 minutes just to do that. Yeah, thanks for switching on.
Hi, I'm Adil Manager Homji. I'm currently in Mumbai, India.
Okay.
I'm a senior product manager at an agricultural tech company based out of Los Angeles.
Nice.
So looking forward to learning design with you all.
Perfect. Awesome. Who else? Probably you can type it on chat as well. We would just love to know each other over here. What's the background, and like just to understand how many PMs do we have here. Cool. I think everyone is getting lazy or something. I'm not sure, but yeah. Let's see. Okay, we got one, I guess. Yep. There's Abhishek. Okay, I'm a student and an inspiring.
Hey Arnav,
Yeah.
this
Hey
is
man.
Prakhar from Galaxy Space.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I am part of a deep tech startup. We are incubated in IIT Madras,
Nice.
and we are building constellation of satellites.
Oh,
So
perfect.
I am the product manager there. So we are actually
Great.
building AI products on satellite imagery. So
Perfect.
that this I think design would really help me understand how AI products with satellite imagery could be represented to the
Sure.
audience, like in enterprise companies. So I guess
Sure.
that would be a great help. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I've been maximum in my career. I've been in just enterprise and SaaS companies, so I can probably tell you more personally how things works probably in enterprise, and probably learn from you as well some of the things. Cool. I started my career and also like running a company around SaaS and enterprise. So yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It would be great to, have a discussion with you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. All right. Anyone else? Cool. All right, no worries. Probably we can start, and I'll just so basically the session is all about, there's obviously a notion, what is going to happen, what is this course about, and stuff like that, right? And it is important to have a chat before you go ahead and sort of apply for something like this, and why this is probably relevant to someone, right? So just to give you a context of why this basically started, right? So the course earlier that we had was a 6-week course, right? And the idea behind that was that we'll have like 2 sessions depending on the whole design process that we have. But the ground level problem that we are basically trying to solve is having an exclusive journey for PMs to build a design muscle, right? So whenever we talk about product management in general, if you look at product management in general, it has like 3 concentric circles, right? Which is, you have business, you have tech, and you have design, right? So these are the 3 things that a PM sort of has back in the mind, or has these traits to push the product from right from research to actual execution. But in these 3 concentric circles, which is design, tech, and business, most of the hiring that happens is mostly like a, what do you call, either it's a business PM or either it's a tech PM, right? Some of these, if even if you look at the positioning of how the PMs are also hired is sort of around these itself, right? So no one really talks about design, but one of the pillars that creates product is, product management, and in that parallelly, which is run as design, right? So what is the best way to sort of understand the counterpart of your job, which is the designers out there, who would be working with you, or maybe you are one of those people, because PM as a role is generalist in nature, right? And you sort of go ahead and do your tech. You create requirements around tech, create requirements around what is actually the research out there, synthesizing all these data, and then presenting and defining these problems, right? One of the counterparts that you always work with is the design team, right? And sometimes there's always a gap between the kind of language a designer speak versus the kind of language that a product manager speaks, right? But we do have very common things in nature. With this course, the idea is to basically have a common language between designers and PM, and sort of using design to empower PMs to eventually understand the language between both of them, and sort of create a deep link between talking to designers versus designers talking to PMs, right? So that's basically the whole idea, right? So the way we have, okay, not audible. Others can hear me? I'll just quickly.
Yeah, you're audible to me. So I guess there might be some internet issue from her end.
I can hear you too.
All right. I've also added my microphone as well. All right. So I think it's audible. Perfect. All right. So if you look at the way we have curated this course is, every designer has its own part. Like there's a mindset versus there's an execution, right? Mindset is basically how we think, right? So even if we look at, if you start, talking to let's say a tech guy or an engineer and talk about the problem with them, they go very deep and logical about, okay, how this functionality would work, how would this things get implemented, how this is going to be fitting in my product and stuff like that, right? So there's a way of thinking when you talk to certain kind of persona, like in case of tech. Similarly, there's a PM, right, who starts thinking about, okay, where do we have a business growth over here? What is the growth opportunity that is going to come in? Okay, does this functionality adds upon our business and things like that, right? Similarly, designers also has their own way of thinking and thinking about the problem itself. One of the things which is very clear in any of the companies is that one of the biggest advocates that we say is the product team, right? The advocates of the user, right? They are the people who are making sure that what users are asking, what exactly are their problems, should be translating in the product. And they're like the only people who sort of start, sort of think about users first, right? So the way we designers look at the problem also has its own counterpart to it, which is having the right mindset of how we think, right? So we basically gonna transfer you the idea of how basically designers think, how they think about solving the problems, and what is the execution of this, like how do they execute, like what is their day-to-day life of executing an idea to an actual design, right? What does the process looks like? The whole thing is gonna make you more aware about, okay, this is how designer is gonna work. So imagine, tomorrow if a designer says that, okay, this particular thing needs more like a component library or some sort of design system and things like that, they have their own language. You will start relating with that, right? You will start empathizing with them because now you know exactly what is the behind the scenes of how a designers think and how they execute, right? So these are the two parts of it. One is mindset and the execution. So the way we have curated this in the next 3 weeks, the idea is to help you understand the mindset of how they're thinking. And the second part is how exactly do they execute, right? And I'll quickly share like what are the topics and things that we're going to talk about and who are the people behind them who's going to talk to you about this. you will see that every moment, like once you come in and you get out of the 3-week course, there's a gradual way of making you imbibe all of this process of design, right? So that's how we have curated it, and this is basically what should be the output for you as well. This is how you need to think of it. Of uh, at the end of the day, the idea is to empathize more with your designers and make it a powerful sword for yourself as a PM, that okay, I also know design, and eventually that connect with your designers will be much more better, right? So that's the whole idea. Now, the first things that we're going to talk about, which is also part of the mindset, is understanding the design fundamentals, right? So let's say very simple things, right? When you sort of, let's say when you sort of use a desktop app, usually most of these sign up or anything like that comes in pop-ups, right? Versus as soon as you come on, let's say on a mobile device, it basically comes as a slide over, which is basically which is related, which is very close to your sort of thumbs, right? These are some of the patterns which is very engraved within a designer. They start thinking like that whenever a problem statement like that comes in. So there's some fundamental ways of how designers look into a problem, how designers think, right? So that is something that we're going to talk about in the first session, which is related to the mindset, is understanding the design fundamentals. And this is going to be a workshop kind of a thing where, Yugender, who is basically the lead product designer in Procol, and also has created his own agency back in, like, for the last 5 years here, he was running an agency of a design agency itself. Like, so he has basically worked in multiple sort of clients in just UI UX specifically, and currently he's leading the product design at Procol, which is again enterprise heavy and a SaaS company out of India. So they are basically solving the problem of procurement, right? So he will be the person who will be delivering this basically delivering this webinar. And here we're going to talk about the fundamentals of how designers think and how their solution looks like in their heads, right? So that is how we will start, right? The second one is basically user research. User research is one of the biggest things which comes since the inception of any product that is gonna get built, right? So in user research also, there are multiple methods to it, right? So there are professionals, like I'm pretty sure you would have heard this this job profile called UX researchers as well, right? They're dedicated sort of UX researchers out there for companies that embrace this, is like Google, right? Who basically have this whole department where we just have UX researchers who use methods to define the problem, to identify the problem and stuff like that, right? So the whole so we're gonna have like Durba, who is a UX researcher at HP right now, but I've also worked with her back in Ola. She has worked for Google, she has worked for SAP Labs, and been a professional specialist in just user research, right? So she's gonna tell you about things like what are some of the methods that you can use to do user research. They're like if you look at on top level, user research has its own ways, like for example, secondary research versus primary research, where primary research goes very on ground versus secondary research, which is you do it on your desk and sort of collect those data points to make sure that you have these 100 of evidences to tell you to tell yourself that this is why this feature needs to get built, right? So what are some of the methods to answer those questions is something that you're gonna learn in this particular session, which is embracing user research in your product management, right? So that is the execution part of it. And so that this is about the user research thing. Then obviously one of the things that we would love as designers is that when our PMs start working with us on Figma itself, right? So there's, in the last cohort, I think one of the best sessions that happened was, and everyone thanked us, is that we now know Figma. And it would be so much easier for me as a PM to actually go to Figma and sort of correct some of the things that I feel like, should have been there. So we're going to talk about, we will be, helping you learn Figma from scratch to at least go into like the advanced level of understanding the design systems and how you can use like UI kits and stuff to bring your ideas to life. Right. So this is going to be epic one. This is the workshop which is done by Viraj, a young, talented guy who sort of is like pretty, smooth with Figma in itself. So he's amazing with Figma and knows in and out of it. Right. So we're going to help you to know the tools of designers where they spend most of their day to make ideas make ideas come to life, right? So that is one. The another thing that we're going to talk about is also something called as the visual design, right? So this is one of the parts of design where once your research is done, right, now you have some idea of what the solution would look like. All right. Then now you're moving towards, okay, let's start defining this into UI or whatever it is, right? So you start conceptualizing each frames or each the user journeys of how does this screen look like, what does the next screen look like, and stuff like that. In one of those things, one of the important things is to understand visual design, right? So how does colors work, how does typography work, right? How does spacing, how does things like what is the psychology behind choosing a certain kind of color versus a different kind of color itself. And this is brought to you by Sneha. Sneha is one of the known, visual designers out there in the industry who has worked and led, brand design for an academy, Graphy, and now she has been working with some of the new Web3 startups out there. She has been defining so many branding stuff for all the Web3 companies that are coming around here. And she's an NID pass out, so she brings in a lot of fundamental way of how visual design has grown, what is the history around it, and stuff like that, right? So here you're gonna create that sense of understanding that why this designer chose this particular color or the structure or the pattern and stuff like that, right? So this is something that she's gonna talk about. This is again very mindset and sort of execution based. So you will be learning a lot on how does basically UI or any graphic related stuff basically works, right? The third part is, and we're moving towards something called as the user journey workshop. I think this is something which is relatable for any PM, and we always try to go back and see like how does the funnels basically working out? Where did the journey of a user basically starts? Where a user takes a decision? Where does a user actually gets converted? These are some of the things that we always question, but there is always a method to all of these madness, right? So one of the things that a lot of designers also use is basically user journey mapping, right? So this is a workshop which will be driven by Shivam. So Shivam is he has been a freelance product designer for like a couple of companies from last couple of years, and he's currently working with Paras Chopra with his stealth healthcare startup that he's building out there. He's like one of those first founding designers who is working with him, right? So this is again very mindset and sort of execution based workshop that we're going to bring into you. And of course, this is like one of my favorite topics. I have been in expert about design systems. Design systems was traditionally started by engineers, but then back in 2017, when this buzzword sort of started coming in 2017 in India, before that, this concept always relied in engineering, right? Where we had like component libraries and like, the whole transition from being a web app to coming to a PWA, then coming to these modern age frameworks like React, Vue.js, and all of these. Basically, the biggest problem that they were trying to solve is the whole web page doesn't really loads in like doesn't really load at first time, right? It's basically all of these are basically components, right? So design system is basically one of the ways that is adopted by designers is to look at any UI to go scale but in pieces and parts, right? So there's a way to how you can define, how your UI will scale, what is the, certain kind of patterns and stuff like that. Yep. If I'll just quickly stop here and would love to know if you guys have any questions till now. Otherwise, we can take it even later. So yeah, any questions till now? Cool. Yeah. So I'll just continue about the design system itself. So yeah, I have been part of, I've been hired professionally just for being a design system manager at Ola, and have led design systems at Cubol, which was basically an enterprise database company based out of US. Then got hired in Ola just to solve this particular problem of design systems. The idea is to create libraries, create how systematically any UI components can be created throughout the whole company, so that you focus more on building rather than thinking on pixels, right? So next time, whenever you are sort of launching a feature or anything like that, you have those component library already there. It's just that you just think about how does the flow work, how does the UX works, and things like that, and then all of this design, all of the pixel related stuff is being taken care of design systems. So it has its own method, it has its own way of evolving it. So yeah, this is one of the things that I'll be talking about. So yeah, this was a little bit of background about myself as well. Cool. Let's go to the second one. And I think this is the most important one, is that, now, because you might know all of these things, right? If you look at all of these topics, it's basically taking you closer to your design mindset. So next time when you meet a designer, you know how they think, right? So this way you can empathize, this way you can understand that what exactly are they trying to say. And one of the things that I feel, every product manager, specifically in an early stage, is that a PM runs the show, right? And one of the biggest things that they do is to communicate with everyone. So one of the things that Agniva is going to talk about to you is about how to collaborate with designers. What does it take to collaborate with them? How do you speak their language and stuff, right? How do you give and receive feedback from them? Sometimes we just say, we would just say that this button is not working, maybe that color is not right and stuff like that, right? Maybe now you would have more structured way of talking to your designers that this is why it is not working or whatever it is, right? So you can articulate better. So one of the things that Agniva is bringing in is how to collaborate with designers, how to receive and give feedback to them. I'll talk about Agniva after this because there are a couple of more over here. And then one of the things that he's bringing in is building a design team and hiring designers and how to fire them as well, right? What is the right time to fire them, and what is the right time to even hire them, right? So Agniva has a little bit of background now about Agniva. Agniva has been part of Ola from last 4 years, right? He has led the London launch. He has led the whole new Ola design that you look at right now is something that Agniva led at that point of time, and he has been the head of UX at Ola. Plus, I have personally also worked with him. I feel like a lot of stuff that I've doing in my career I've also learned from him. So he has massively created big teams and also have started things from scratch as well. Now he's working at FamPay and sort of built out the design team again, right? So the FamPay design team is basically under his leadership. So he's going to talk about some fundamental topics like how to collaborate with designers, how to hire designers, what are the traits that you need to look at, things like how to read a case study. If one of the things that a designer needs to have is a portfolio and a solid case study, right? The case study talks about what was the problem, how did they go about it, what was some of the constraints that they felt and stuff like that, and then that is a design case study. All of the designers basically write and sort of apply to any of the companies. So as a product manager, how do you go about and understand if this case study was right or wrong, or how do you sort of manage to understand if this is basically working out for you, and if they're faking it or not, and stuff like that, right? So these are some of the things that Agniva is going to bring in. And obviously, every design needs to get measured, because every time whatever we do is basically there has to be an output out of all the designs that are coming in, right? So how do you fundamentally look at measuring designs as well is something that Agniva is also going to talk about. So this is basically a couple of stuff that Agniva is going to talk about around the mindset of hiring a designer, talking to a designer, collaborating with the designers and stuff like that, right? So that was one. And so once you have learned most of these things, one of the things that we have curated for you is very dedicated assignments depending on whatever the topic that is getting completed and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the whole cohort, what we'll try to do is we'll give you some of these problem statements, some live problem statements, which you can use, all of which you will use, like all the things that you just learned and implemented from idea to design, right? So this is how the journey would look like. And these are all the background of all the mentors that are gonna come and teach. And yep, thank you, and open to questions. Also, we have Yugender here. I can see him. So probably he can also answer some of your questions, and yep, open to all the Q&A. Yugender, I think you're on mute. Do you want to add anything that I just missed out or anything like that?
I mean, that was perfect. Like, I mean, it was a good summary of what you're going to expect in the whole cohort. And surely it's going to add value in what you do in day-to-day life as a PM, right? So open to all questions, and we'll be happy to help and answer those.
For sure. Cool, guys. Any questions? Anything that you feel like you want to understand about this cohort? No questions? Anything?
Okay, how about we? Did we start a round of introduction?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We can do it again if you want it.
I mean, it's okay.
No, we can do. Probably ask people. Yep. Cool. Abhishek, Adil, any thoughts? Ravish.
Okay, we have a question.
Yep.
When will the Luma meetings be up for all the events? So
yeah, I think Tanmay, if you could answer this, but as soon as the cohort starts, I think you will get most of the things prepped right before that itself. The calendar invites will be sent very soon to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You better block the calendars before it gets all booked.
Yep. Cool. Anyone else? All right.
Any questions around the cohort, like the sessions, or probably any difficulties that you are facing as a PM? We could probably help you curate that, the cohort that way. So yep. Live versus recorded split of sessions and timings.
Yeah, I think most of everything will be live, and all of these things will be recorded as well, so you can see it anytime if you get missed by the session. But we highly recommend that the fun happens only in live sessions itself.
Yep.
Cool. How about like we probably give a round of introduction, and probably we can talk about, as a PM, what do you think about learning actually design? Like just a specific one. Are there specific tools we're gonna use while learning all this? One of them would be, I think specifically would be mostly Figma. I think that is something that you should only be caring about. Apart from that, nothing else. I think this is more fundamentally, most of the things basically gets worked in Figma itself. I think we sort of gonna live and die in Figma itself as designers. So yeah. how to know the difference between good versus bad designs, and how to build the mental model of good design. Yuvinder, Mike, do you wanna take this up?
Yes, very good question, by the way. I mean, good design versus bad design is all contextual in that particular given scenario, and what exactly you're designing for, who is the user, and the problem statement you have got for. So a good design might not be the good design for a specific demographics, right? It might not work that way. So it is very contextual. Secondly, how to build a mental model for good designs is something that you have to wait for in this cohort, and you'll get to know these things, and that's what we are here for. So
I think one of the things that Yuvinder is only going to talk about is the fundamental of designs. With that mindset of understanding of patterns and how we actually look at it, what is the subconscious brain of ours that looks at design the way we do, is something that is basically covered in this cohort for sure. All right, Pratiksha basically asked, like, could you cover the difference between design for designers and design for PMs? I'll probably take the first part and how I look at it. Design for designers, if you look at it, design for designers is a specialist thing, right? Whereas specialization comes with you need to know everything, right? Whereas a design for PMs is fundamentally giving an idea of how designers think, how designers talk, what are they talking, even if that makes sense or not, right? So, like, for example, if you're talking to a tech guy and if you know about APIs, well sorted, because now you can understand their language. Whereas if you go and talk to our designers and talk about, okay, there's a 3-column layout, hame isme ye dalna hai and stuff like that, and like goes very deep into ki, like fundamentally this is not working out, or there's no pattern around this thing in material design. This is what works out in iOS design. This is how it works out. Is something that the designers speak, and sometimes as a PM you start thinking like, what was the difference there, right? But there is a huge difference between the gestures between what you're using in a desktop versus what you're using in a a Google based mobile versus an iPhone, right? So all of these things is something that a day-to-day life a designers always go and just work on those things, right? That is the specialization that we work on. So for design for PMs is basically just to understand what exactly and how exactly designers work. And I think that would be the biggest difference between design for designers versus design for PMs. Like very simple things, right? Let's say there's a UI that you just created, but there needs to be an advanced level prototyping. That is something that the PM doesn't need to do, because that is not his specialization or to basically go and execute this. There's a designer who will make sure that the sort of requirement that gets created in this prototype needs to get very precise, so that the engineer can understand, okay, this is what we need to build, right? So these are some of the difference to it. At the end of the day, the PM needs to still get empowered about how designers basically work, like how we as a PM know how tech works, right? So that is basically the whole thing. And as a PM, it's essentially designing the interface end to end, or taking all the major calls. I think major calls is always taken by the team, right? Product team basically drives ambiguity to what finally gets built, right? So a lot of synthesizing all the research, all the inputs that you're getting, all the data that you're collecting, synthesizing all of that and thinking about the next step, making sure creating a clarity of what needs to be built for the whole company is something that the PM does. Now from there, like for example, just to give an example, it would be like all the things are written in PRDs, and now the execution goes to the specializations, right? There will be designers, there will be engineers who are making things to life. But as a PM, you are always on top of all of this, right? So it's not essentially about creating interfaces. I don't think even design PMs go very deep into interfaces, but it is always good to know how these things are done, right? So that's why design is important for PMs in that case. So yeah, anything to add, Yuvinder?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's more of when actually designers give a handoff, or probably you are sitting in a meeting with designers, right? And you would be in a better position to understand design and take some calls from product, which probably you foresee probably 4 to 5 years ahead, or maybe a couple of years down the line. And when you look at a design, you would be in better position to analyze it, study it, because you already have that knowledge, that vocabulary, and whatever justification that a designer gives for a design, and whatever they are communicating, you will be in a better position to understand it. Secondly, you would also be in a better position to suggest. So, often designers would retaliate in a way, okay, what you understand of design, okay, this is how it works, and they would really be very anal about certain stuff. But, to pacify that kind of situation, or, get in a room where you both are on the same page, that is why this goes for. And I think this is what it will help. And that's how the design for PMs and also design for designers differs. As a PM, you would probably want to understand, you would want to also suggest designers, have a shared context between the whole team, devs, design, and the product. So that's the job of PM. Whereas as a designer, the guy would only be thinking from a design perspective. So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yes. For sure. I think Abhishek also said that, but it is good to have a skill.
Yeah.
I think it is also getting very mandatory in nature. Like if you look at, the 2022 pattern, we have a new generation of how, let's just pick up productivity based softwares these days, right? Pick up Notion, pick up Linear, right? In those cases, right? These are redefining the way humans are even interacting with this, right? Humans are even interacting, like people, like now even B2B SaaS softwares are going very keyboard first, because it is going to be very essential for anyone to make sure that the person who is using the software, who is doing a business on top of it, goes very productive in nature, right? So these are some of the things that are sort of now redefining every software that is basically getting created, right? And if you look at even the foundation, like even the co-founders are now very design driven, right? Most of the solutions that are coming are very design driven, because you can fail fast while you're designing, right? You can fail fast, as faster as you can even think, right? And once a wrong design or anything that is gotten implemented in tech cost a lot, right? So that is why design is becoming more and more important, because you can go and sort of iterate faster. You can understand how does the solution would look like and things like that, right? So for that, eventually the whole company, whoever is sort of in the builder mode, whoever is responsible for execution, needs to understand design. Otherwise, there is a standard that is already created, so you cannot do a basic work now, right? You cannot bring in a basic or average looking product or average working product in the market now, because there's nothing called as MVP now, right? Everything is very, has to be more exceptional, even if you're new, even if you are a new product. Cool.
Things have moved from MVP to MDP now, so
for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Design companies like Apple prefer someone who has a background in design for PM as well. Thanks for proving. I think this is the comment that we were looking for. And yeah, I mean it is important, right? Because if you don't know about it, it will always become difficult ki bhai push karo na, matlab just push it. Like why are we going and sort of polishing everything that's not even important, right? So these are the conversations that will go out. Anything that you would like to add, Yogendra?
I mean, in the recent times also, due to recession and the past couple of years, the whole scenario, what's happening in the startup industry, all the investors, founders are very keen about a couple of things. One is revenue, and secondly is obviously the quality of product that goes out to the users. Because over a decade, people have, at least the users in B2C, they have been exposed to really high and good looking, beautiful, experienced products. So all they expect from all the new products is a very good experience, intuitive UX, and the quality. So that's a must now. And as a PM earlier, even in B2B, right? You rightly said, like the scenario is changing and it's changing fast, that all that things that works needs to look good as well. So a good design is how it works, but it's how it looks. So
now it is becoming like that for sure.
Yeah, it's becoming more like that. And that kind of has become a mandatory thing for all the products in the market. And if a PM understands good design, it's nothing like it.
Absolutely. And just to add on that, right? Just 5 years back when the companies were adopting design, like when we used to specifically say that this is a design-led company, that was basically creating an authority that we are a company which believes in, having a quality of things. It has become a basic now, right? So that's the scenario now. And like, there's no specific thing called design. It has to be part of the whole, the soul of the product itself, right? And that actually defines the soul as well. So, yep. UI UX designers are soulmate for sure.
For sure. Yes.
Cool. All right. If there's any other question, happy to answer. We'll just take another few minutes. Nothing, I guess. All right. Okay, one more question. Webber. Okay. We will also be solving case studies in the cohort. Yes, a lot of, depending on the session, you will be given assignments depending on that. So yeah, there will be questions. There will be like live sort of case studies. There will be some stuff. They'll be basically curated assignments depending on which course or which session are we talking about by the end. All right. Who else? All right. I think most of the questions are done. Cool. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. I think one of the things, just to give you a reminder, is basically your application will be approved once the payment is basically done. And you can also reach out to me anytime. I think there's a group that is also created, or you can reach out to TPF team again in the same group itself. If you have any further question, please use that group, or maybe we can also reach out to you via email or anything like that. So yeah, a quick update that the application will be approved as soon as the payment has been done. Cool. All right. Hope this session helped you guys, and hope there's a lot of clarification that has happened over here. Thanks, Yugender Bhai, for joining in, and see you folks in the cohort. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.